For the devil is a master businessman. He gives you a drop of water in the morning, only to demand an ocean of blood before the sun goes down. The silver blade hovered in the dimly lit parlor, reflecting the cold, dead look in Nineka's eyes. Chitty lay completely still on the rug, breathing softly under the influence of the drugged wine. Nineka did not hesitate. The golden stone in her chest throbbed with a sickening, ravenous hunger, demanding the pure, innocent love that Chitty possessed. With one swift, merciless stroke, the deed was done. Nineka collected the crimson sacrifice in the ceremonial silver bowl and walked into the dark, forbidden courtyard of her mansion. She poured it upon the roots of a dead, black tree that stood in the center of the yard, the very spot where she communed with the shadows. Instantly, the ground trembled. The heavy scent of sulfur filled the air, and the smooth, rustling voice of her master echoed from the darkness. "Splendid?" the voice whispered, dripping with malicious satisfaction. "You have proven your loyalty, Nika. A brother's love is a potent currency." Suddenly, Nineka's warehouses across the region, which had been suffering from recent trade blocks, magically filled with the rarest textiles and foreign goods. Her wealth tripled overnight. The next morning, her servants found Chitty's cold body outside the mansion gates. The townspeople whispered that he had been attacked by highway robbers on his way to see his wealthy sister. Nineka ordered a lavish, expensive funeral for him, paying for the finest casket money could buy, but she did not shed a single tear. Her face remained a flawless, frozen mask of stone. A week later, a messenger arrived from Achara village. He brought the news that Nika's mother, Ma Obiajeli, had passed away from heartbreak and sickness, calling Nika's name with her final breath. When the messenger delivered the news, expecting the great woman to break down in tears, Nineka simply reached into her silk pouch, tossed a handful of gold coins at his feet, and said, "Go back and bury her. I am too busy with the king's merchants to visit a graveyard." The messenger recoiled in horror, leaving the mansion while cursing the day Nineka was born. With her mother and brother gone, Nineka's youngest sister, Anuli, was left entirely alone in the village. Anuli was only 12 years old, a gentle girl who still remembered the sweet, loving older sister Nineka used to be before the darkness took her. Desperate and terrified of being left to starve, Anuli packed her few belongings and traveled down the long, dusty road to Enugu, arriving at the iron gates of Madame Nineka's great mansion. When Nika came down the grand staircase and saw Anuli sitting in her parlor, the golden stone in her chest didn't flutter. It didn't warm, but it began to pound with an aggressive, terrifying force. The voice of the devil echoed in her mind. "Another vessel of pure, untainted love has walked straight into your trap. Sacrifice her, and you will inherit the wealth of kingdoms beyond the seas." Nineka looked at Anuli. Anuli ran to her, throwing her small arms around Nika's waist, weeping out of pure joy and relief. "Sister, you are all I have left. Mother and Chitty are gone. Please don't cast me out. I will do all the chores. I will clean your palace. Just let me stay with you." Nineka's robotic voice replied, "You can stay." But in her mind, she was already calculating the date of the next new moon. As the days drew closer to the sacrifice, a strange thing began to happen in the mansion. Anuli did not know about the Dark Covenant. Every evening, she would sit by Neka's feet while Neka counted her gold, and she would sing the old traditional lullabies their mother used to sing to them under the moonlight in Achara. One night, as Anuli sang a particularly beautiful verse about the bond of sisterhood, a sharp, agonizing pain shot through Nineka's chest. It wasn't the hunger of the gold stone. It was a cracking sensation. For a split second, a vision of her childhood, running through the green fields with Chitty and holding a baby Anuli, flashed through her mind. A single tiny drop of warmth tried to form in her empty chest. Nineka gasped, clutching her chest, and stood up violently, knocking over her gold coins. "Stop singing," she screamed, her voice cracking with an emotion she hadn't felt in years. Anuli trembled, terrified. "I am sorry, sister. I only sang it because Mother said you loved that song." Nineka locked herself in her chambers, pacing like a caged animal. The golden stone was fighting against the tiny, dormant spark of her true humanity that Anuli's presence was awakening. That night, Nika went to the crossroads in the courtyard, demanding her master appear. The king of the night materialized from the fog, his hollow eyes burning with a dark, angry fire. "You are wavering, Nanika," he hissed. "The girl's love is contaminating the stone I gave you. If you do not sacrifice her on the night of the upcoming eclipse, the covenant is broken. You will lose everything. Your wealth will turn to ash, your mansions will crumble, and your soul will be dragged straight into the abyss of fire." Naneka's jaw tightened. The fear of returning to poverty, the terror of being a nobody again, completely overrode the tiny spark of humanity. "She will die on the night of the eclipse," Nika promised. The night of the total eclipse arrived. The moon was slowly swallowed by a dark, bloody shadow, plunging the town of Enugu into an unnatural, eerie darkness. Nanika prepared the parlor. She drugged Anuli's evening tea, just as she had done to Chitty. Within minutes, the little girl yawned, her eyes growing heavy. She looked up at Nika with pure, unconditional trust. "Sister," Anuli whispered sleepily, reaching out to hold Nika's hand. "My heart feels safe here with you. I know the villagers say bad things about you, but I told them my sister is a good person. I love you, Nika." With those final words, Anuli's eyes closed, and she fell into a deep, defenseless slumber. Nanika stood over her little sister. She pulled out the ceremonial silver dagger. The devil's presence filled the room, casting long, monstrous shadows on the walls. "Do it now," the shadows chanted. "Do it, and rule the world." Nanika raised the knife, pointing it directly at Anuli's small chest. She tightened her grip, bracing her soul to strike, but as she looked at Anuli's face, she saw the striking resemblance to their late mother. She heard the echo of Anuli's final words, "I love you, Nika." Suddenly, the tiny spark of warmth inside Nika's chest violently exploded. The language of love, which she had completely forgotten, flashed through her soul like lightning. A massive spiritual war erupted inside her body. The golden stone inside her chest began to burn her from the inside out, trying to crush her remaining humanity, while her true spirit fought to break the chains. Tears, real, hot, human tears, began to pour down Nika's face for the first time in years. They dripped onto the blade of the knife. "No," Nika whispered, her body trembling violently. The shadows roared in anger. "Strike, foolish girl, or you will die." "No!" Nanika screamed, her voice shaking the entire mansion. "Take the wealth. Take the gold. Take my life. But you will not have my sister." In a frenzy of desperation and sudden repentance, Nika turned the silver dagger away from Anuli. Realizing that the only way to break a blood covenant was with the blood of the contractor, Nanika plunged the silver knife deep into her own chest, aiming directly for the golden stone. A blinding, explosive light filled the parlor. The golden stone inside her shattered into a million pieces with a sound like breaking glass. The demonic shadows screamed in agony as the pure sacrifice of a sister's self-love and repentance tore through the darkness, banishing the king of the night from the mansion. At that exact moment, in a dark castle in the spiritual realm, the small black iron box holding Nanika's real, beating human heart snapped open. The glowing red light flew out, traveling across the spiritual planes, and crashed back into Nika's chest. Nanika collapsed onto the floor, gasping for air. Her true heart was back, beating wildly, filled with an overwhelming rush of every emotion she had suppressed for years: the intense grief for her mother, the horrific guilt of killing Chitty, and a fierce burning love for Anuli. She wept bitterly, clutching her chest, feeling the heavy weight of her sins, but grateful that her soul was finally alive again. As the morning sun rose, breaking the eclipse, Nanika looked out the window. Her grand mansion was rapidly decaying. The gold coins in her safes were turning into dry leaves and dust. Her warehouses were collapsing. Within hours, she was left with absolutely nothing but the clothes on her back and her sleeping sister. Months later, in the village of Achara, two women could be seen working a small, humble farm at the edge of the forest. It was Nika and her sister, Anuli. Nanika's extraordinary beauty was gone, replaced by the rugged, worn features of a hard-working peasant, and her hands were covered in blisters once more. She was poor, poorer than she had ever been, and the villagers still whispered about her dark past whenever she walked by. But as Nika wiped the sweat from her brow and looked at Anuli laughing under the shade of a tree, a beautiful, genuine smile broke across her face. She was no longer Madame Nanika, the wealthy terror of Enugu. She was just Neka, a broken vessel that had been remade by mercy. This story teaches us that there is no amount of wealth, power, or fame that can replace the value of a clean conscience and a loving heart. Never look at the riches of the wicked and envy them, for you do not know the price they paid in the dark. Protect your heart, for out of it flow the issues of life. Thank you for listening to Tales by Chinma. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share this story with your loved ones. Until next time, may your path always be guided by light.